Hello. So last month I attempted my first ever NaNoWriMo, which is a National Novel Writing Month. And I knew about it for some time already, but I've never participated in it because I am a major procrastinator. Yay! This year I decided, you know what? Let's try it. I was scared a lot before starting it because, as I said, I'm a procrastinator. I didn't think I was gonna make it, but spoiler alert, I did make it. I finished NaNoWriMo. I wrote over 50,000 words, which is amazing. I've never written so many words before. Now you might be wondering, why am I making a video after NaNoWriMo? Because it was in November, right? Now it's December. Wouldn't it make more sense to, make it before, like everybody else, during Preptober? No. I'm gonna rebel. The reason why I'm making it right now is because I wanted to have a sort of a reflection video where I talk about my experience during NaNoWriMo, what went wrong, what went right, and what did I learn from it overall. Because I think it's important to reflect on the challenges, especially one as big as NaNoWriMo, because writing 50,000 words in a month is not a small amount. But yeah, now let's talk about what did I learn from NaNoWriMo. The first thing that I've learned is that I'm a planner. I really need planning, and I think people can specifically relate to this during NaNoWriMo because it's a very big amount of words you have to write in a very short and limited time, which is a month. You need to understand that writing is a very long and excruciating process. It takes a lot of time. And to top it off, it is a very creative process, meaning that you cannot really force creativity. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to write, and because of that, it's also easier on you and it's less pressure if you plan ahead. So by planning, I don't just mean plan a chapter outline, a whole story outline. I also mean to schedule in the day when you will write, as well as double the amount of the time it will take you to write. I think most of the people who do participate in NaNoWriMo are not full-time writers. Obviously, with having a 9-to-5 job or studying or whatever you do, it's very hard to find time to write, especially because writing, as I said, is a very long process. Now, compare this planning that I'm talking about to some planning of a company project. So usually when you're creating a project plan, you also do risk assessment. So you try and see what are potential risks and how can you overcome them if they do happen. And there's a lot of risks during NaNoWriMo that can happen. So for example, what I did experience is lack of motivation, writer's block, imposter syndrome, hating what you're writing, having no time, not being able to focus. These issues occur almost daily, and it's not something that you can really help because you don't know what mood you're gonna be in the next day. Mood really impacts the way you write, or if you feel even like writing. And with projects such as NaNoWriMo, you really need to get out there and do it, because if you don't reach the daily word count the next day, it's gonna be very hard. And because of that, you need to understand what are some potential risks that you might come across. And one of the ways that I've dealt with it is by doubling the amount of time it takes me to write. Think about this extra time as a warm-up. So before you exercise, for example, you need to warm up your body the same way your brain needs to warm up, because you need to think, and this doesn't go just for writing but for anything else that requires our brains. We also have to take into consideration, as I said, the fact that each one of us has different schedule, and everybody has different types of jobs that they have to do throughout the day, so it's not like you can just grant yourself as much time as you want throughout the day to write. Another thing that I realized that really helped me was to have an accountability partner, because someone else is also relying on your work, not just you. The second thing that I've learned is, by the way, that was all the first thing. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. The first part was called I need planning. I need planning. The second thing that I've learned is it's easier to write if you're in a mood, so set the mood. I would write much better if the environment around me also screamed writing. Whatever sets you in the mood, whatever makes you feel more relaxed and inspired to write, definitely take advantage of that, because environment does really influence our ability to, as I said, again, not just write, but to do anything pretty much. Another thing that I've also seen a lot of people say is to have a playlist done or a mood board that you can look at every time you need some inspiration. And yes, that does help. I also created both the playlists and the mood boards, and they do help. I mean, they do. So yeah, it's a good tip. do that. And the same as I said about creating a schedule for writing. While you're writing, have a writing routine. In my case, I use the Pomodoro technique, which is you write for 25 minutes and then you have 5 minutes of rest. It helps because you need some rest in between writing sessions. But also, instead of creating your own writing routine, if you're not sure of how you want to write, try following some famous authors' writing routines. It's very fun to see how your favorite authors write and to see how you can maybe incorporate that, because NaNoWriMo is all about experimenting in my case. And who knows, maybe you feel like the way Brandy Sandy writes is the way for you to go. The third thing that I've learned is that it was easier to begin than I thought. Maybe it was because it was new, it was fresh, and I really wanted to try it out, but the beginnings are always the scariest for me. But this time it wasn't. I was going even over the word count, which I will come back to later, can be a bad thing. I noticed how it was actually very nice to start writing, and how once I started I was like, oh, I want to keep on doing it. So I think it was this sense of novelty that made me very inspired and motivated in the beginning to write. But to come back to this, how it can also negatively impact, it also did, because think of it as a race. If you start too fast, you're gonna lose a lot of energy and it won't be sustainable in the long run. NaNoWriMo kind of is a race against time and words. You need the energy, as much of it as you can take. If you're someone who only has time to write in the evening, to come back from work being exhausted and having to refocus once more on something else can be a bit draining. So it's really important to also be consistent with the word count, not just so that you don't have a lot of it left for some other days, but also to have a sustainable and more reliable approach to writing. The lack of energy will also come not just from the external things, but also from writing itself. Writing is very tiring, and it's really important to know sometimes you have to stop. I definitely learned this the hard way, this challenge. More on that later. So to again reiterate what I previously said about mood and everything, you're not always going to feel like writing, and that is okay, because writing is a creative process. You cannot just switch creativity on or off whenever you want. There is this thing called writer's block, and it is very much so real. A writer's block can occur from many things, but especially during NaNoWriMo, it's really not something that you wish for. You do kind of want to reach the word count, and you do want to achieve the goal. There is no magical solution to it, but one to still continue writing. But there is a lot of things that can cause writer's block. And to continue off with this energy deficiency, I would like to talk about the next thing that I learned, which is sleep is important. You would think I would know this by now, but no. If you don't get enough sleep, you're gonna be, guess what? You're gonna be tired. Feeling tired while having to perform such excruciating activity, not fun and not cool and borderline impossible. It's very important for your brain to get rest. When you're tired, you really struggle with focusing, and this comes with all of those risks that I've talked about, and a lot of them are influenced by sleeping, a lot of them are influenced by our diet, and this is not just the case for writing, this is the case for any activity that we do. I completely ruined my sleeping schedule during the month of November. And this brings me to another point, which is I need to learn when to stop. I had this one situation right after the middle of November. I was at my friend's place and suddenly I got a very, very big headache. Instead of resting, you know what I did? I wrote, because I was so anxious with achieving the word count. I was like, I cannot allow myself to have a headache right now. I cannot allow myself to rest. I still didn't get the word count of that day, and I'm kind of glad for it, because I was stupid in that case. And please don't do the same as I did. If you have a headache, take some rest, because also once you do take rest, you're gonna be more motivated and more energized and more focused on what you were already doing. Because you know what happened the next? You will see that after, I believe, like 17th of November, the word count became very funky. One of the reasons why was that headache, because also throughout that whole week afterwards, I just had headaches over headaches over headaches. Instead of allowing myself to rest, I was really pressured. Again, nobody else pressured me, okay? I started this on my own, but I felt the pressure. I was anxious. What if I don't make it in time? And I really, really want to. With all of these headaches, as you can see, the word count just became extremely messy. There was one day when I wrote 0 words because my brain was completely foggy. Like, what's the point? Because that's the thing, like, I cannot affect these events. I cannot affect how I'm going to feel. I cannot affect when I'm gonna get sick or not. instead of, making myself feel even worse by worrying about all these things, I should have just rested. And even though I did complete the word count, I kind of sometimes wish that I didn't, just so that I learned a lesson. Because now I believe somewhere in the back of my mind, my thoughts are like, so even if we're feeling unwell, we can still make it, which I don't want to be the case. I want to feel good when I'm writing. It's always good, especially in these types of challenges, to have a healthy amount of pressure. So regarding this goal of 50,000 words, I don't think the point of NaNoWriMo is really to get 50,000 words out there. I think this word count is just symbolic. The reason why I say that is because it could also be 60 or 40, but the point is to have a certain measurement, to have a certain quantity that we want to achieve. If we don't quantify something, then it's a bit more abstract. If the goal is just write as much as you can, I don't think a lot of people would succeed in that because there is no specific goal put in place. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the point is not to achieve 50,000 words. The point is to discipline yourself and create a habit out of writing. That is, I think, the most important thing that I have learned in this whole month. There's a learning curve to everything, and the same goes for writing. And I think NaNoWriMo is a very good time to try and learn what works for you as a writer. But most importantly, it's about creating a habit and learning what this habit of yours entails. And what I've learned about writing in this month, surprise, surprise, can also be applied to any other hobby of mine that I have, or just in general, anything that I do in life. Discipline is important in any aspect of our lives. Discipline should be something that motivates you, something that inspires you. To kind of end all of this, I really do like that I've finished NaNoWriMo and that I have been able to reach the word count. But even if I didn't, I would still be very proud of myself because I managed to discipline myself and I managed to create a habit out of writing. To anyone who has participated in NaNoWriMo, congratulations! Because even if you didn't reach the word count, it's amazing that you managed to participate in such a huge event. You managed to get words out there. Even if it's very small amount of words, you still did something. And that is amazing. I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck to everybody who is continuing on their novels, or if they're finishing them and want to publish them, good luck with that. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye!